enough is enough, silly gooses. It's time to have a little bit of silly fun. And the silly fun we're going to do today is like some interesting commentary YouTuber thing. Diesel Patches made a video, you know, kind of calling out D'Angelo Wallace. It's not like a huge thing, but it seems to be about the Snow White. I guess D'Angelo Wallace had a take on the Snow White movie, and then, you know, Diesel Patches disagrees, and here we are. We're having a little bit of low fun. A good fun, you know what I mean? Like low effort fun. Nothing crazy. Everything's so overly loaded. You know, I'm looking for some like silly little commentary to game about, you know? Some fun stuff that we could just pass the day with. So anyway, it's about the Snow White movie, the live action one. To be honest with you, I'm not really excited. I will admit the allegations are true. I am a Disney adult. My wife and I enjoy Disney quite a bit, substantially. It's probably too much. If I was to show you what my room looks like, it's full of Loungefly bags, majority Disney, and we're going to go again in next year, beginning of the year for her 30th birthday. And I'm not excited about the live action movies. They feel boring. I don't care that, what is it? The girl is brown. Because this video is called Snow White is Brown now, and people are being very normal about it. I'm going to be real with you. This is her. She's not really brown. She's the whitest person I've ever seen outside of me. She looks like me after my sunburn has calmed down after a few days, and I've now, you know, a little tan. I don't care if they made her a different color. The biggest issue, and this is actually this interview here that I would have, she doesn't seem particularly interested in the movie. She doesn't seem, you know what I mean? So it just seems like kind of cringe. I remember watching that interview. It just, you know, comes off a little bizarre. That's my take. I wasn't a big fan of the Little Mermaid movie. It just kind of sucked. I wasn't a fan of Wish either. Kind of sucked. It feels like they're pumping out slop. Okay? If I want slop, I'll go to a buffet. So that's how I feel about it. I also don't understand, you know, why the 7 dwarves were like CGI and why they didn't just use dwarves. The representation was to use non-dwarf people. I believe that's the politically correct term, by the way. You know, why not put a dwarf in a fucking wheelchair? Make it a steampunk dwarf in a wheelchair. That's inclusive. But make it like a little person. I also think that's politically correct. Because that'd be kind of fucking badass. Could you imagine they had like a little person in a fucking wheelchair, but it was like this awesome steampunk wheelchair? Instead, you got mostly just like fucking... I don't get it. I don't really get it. But let's get this party started, dude. Let's just start this. We're going to start with D'Angelo Wallace's video.
If I had to sum up today's video in a word, it would be childish. Adults enjoying things that were 100% intended to amuse children is actually completely fine with me.
I think that the live action Snow White might be a little bit more of an appeal to adults because that like Disney. And I think that, you know, Disney adults are pretty big amount of the financial infrastructure of Disney, no?
Times out of 10, I am very easily entertained. So you got a singing snowman in a movie, sign me up. I can't find this in a grown-up movie, but there is a really specific way.
Well, I think that a good kids show or movie or piece of media will appeal to an adult. That's why like the older cartoons will have dirty jokes in them that kids don't get, because it's like, it's supposed to be for the enjoyment of like the adults, you know,
in which certain people online consume content intended for children that is so very unhinged, and it's all coming.
Are you talking about Five Nights at Freddy's? By the way, came to this realization as I've been rewatching the Night at the Museum movies. The Night at the Museum movies are just the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, but like the prequels, no? I mean, hey guys, here's a movie about a night security guard, and at night everything comes alive and they start attacking the person and they have to make sure nobody gets in or out. And, you know, this happens for about 6 hours a night and then it goes away. What the fuck? Are you serious? Five Nights at Freddy's? Night at the Museum is Five Nights at Freddy's. Or rather, Five Nights at Freddy's is Night at the Museum. Okay.
To a head because Disney has announced a new live-action version of their classic movie Snow White, and let's just say people are not happy. Anyway, welcome. I'm D'Angelo, and I am your professor of superluminal music theory, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe I'm...
My biggest criticism, and I know this is a little off topic, but now that we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's at the museum, Ben Stiller style, you know, and maybe this is just my thought. I would try to fuck one of the things, right? Like what else we did? One of the wax figure. I would just, what's going on with that? And one of them wanted to tap that, the Amelia Earhart one in the second movie, and he didn't go for it. And I'm just like, why wouldn't you want to try that out? You just had a curiosity, morbid curiosity. But then also, like, maybe I'd bring my own, you know, waifu pillow. Maybe I'd bring my waifu pillow from home. Try that out. Right? Because why not? It's interesting. Why not, dude?
I'm just broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube.
In fact, maybe I'd bring a Five Nights at Freddy's Chica action figure into the museum. See where we go from there, right?
Used to be. Regardless, in today's lecture, I thought we would look at none other than the Snow White controversy. I was never the biggest fan of princess movies growing up. You know, Dave and I, we're more so serious cinema connoisseurs.
Well,
like
usually dudes, I think with D'Angelo's a dude. It's hard to tell anymore, but they usually go for other things. Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, pretty badass.
Pixar's Cars, but nevertheless, I do definitely have an opinion or two on the way Disney has decided to go with the story, so we're going to get into that as well.
Well, from what I know, the limited amount, they're trying to make it a little more updated, and they're trying to not make Snow White the damsel in distress, which I guess is fine. You know, I feel like it doesn't really matter that much to me. Like, I'm not melting down about it. I would say that I don't see a particular issue with maybe like making a new piece of media, like Merida. That one was good. That's where you change the princess instead of change the story of the princess that already exists. And again, it's like whatever, they could do what they want with their IP. I'm not like melting down about it, but I just feel like why not preserve that? It's okay to have some like traditional values. It's okay that some girls want to be treated like a princess and taken care of. Like I have no problem with that. I think the problem comes in when you don't leave room for people to want to be strong. Like Mulan's a strong character, right? That one guy though that wanted to fuck Mulan as a boy, very disappointed when it turned out Mulan was a girl. So sad stuff. What was the Merida one? That's another strong female character. No problem with it. It's they made a new one. I think that's great. The Encanto stuff, I feel like that also kind of strong female characters, all in their own way. I like that. They made new stuff. Moana, not too bad. You know? I think even Princess and the Frog had some elements there where she was like her own woman. That's cool. By the way, I really like Princess and the Frog. I'm surprised because I'm very racist against what? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I actually really like that movie a lot. I feel like that's one of the better Disney movies. Surprisingly, one of the best Disney movies I've really seen. I don't know. I just kind of like, hey, make a new one. Make a new character instead of rehashing old shit because you want to attach like an older IP to it. Also, the Wish movie sucked, and I will not be debating that.
So this ill-fated Snow White live-action scenario has actually been bubbling under for years. There's this article from 2016 outlining Disney's plans to make the movie. Disney, of course, is notorious for these live-action remakes. You've got Aladdin, The Lion King, Lady and the Tramp, which I didn't even realize they had a live-action version of that.
That's crazy.
Mulan, Pinocchio, and who was going to tell me there was a live-action...
Brave is the Merida one, right? That's Merida. Brave, that's what I was talking about.
Peter Pan movie. I mean, I know that there are live action Peter Pan movies, but if
you're gonna make a Peter Pan movie, just like do something new. Make Peter Pan the bad guy, because he kind of is, right? He's kind of the bad guy. I'm pretty sure, like he steals kids and shit like that. Like if you look at the old story, so fuck it, like go balls to the wall on that one.
Did not know about this one. And if that, along with the Little Mermaid, weren't enough for you, of course we have Mufasa the Lion King, Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, Moana, Hercules, Bambi, Robin Hood, the Aristocats.
Yeah, I mean they make all these new Disney movies because what they can do is they nostalgia farm. So you're probably going to see the new one, even if it sucks. And then you'll be like, this one sucked. I'm going to go watch the old one. They get to kind of double down on the hysteria and the hype on it.
That's like, truly, these people are out of ideas. And so people have been feeling a certain way about this live action remake the entire time. But I would say...
I mean, they've been doing this across the board. Like, even they've been oversaturating their content so much. And I don't really know why. Maybe to try to justify the creation of Disney Plus or whatever. But there even be like Star Wars fans are like, why? Like, they're producing so much that it feels like it's not good anymore. It's like, take your time and produce less, but make them better because they come off as weird, right? Like a lot of people, like Mandalorian people liked it a lot. It wasn't too bad. Boba Fett, people weren't a huge fan of that character or the way what they did with the character. Some issues.
Really burst back onto the mainstream because Disney just a few days ago had this expo at their D23 2024, which is a bit of a mouthful exposition. They reveal, Moana 2, a live action Snow White, a spin-off of a different show, a Star Wars spin-off, another sequel. This might actually be original. The fact that I am literally surprised to see an original title says a lot about the current state of Disney. But honestly, I think Snow White is probably the one catching the most flack right now. And it's safe to say the majority of that flack concerns the actress that Disney has cast as the lead role. So
yeah, again, I think I think the majority of the issue is that she seems so disinterested in that interview of the source material, and Disney fans are fucking losers. And they're like very Puritan about their stuff. They're like, oh, they want somebody who's excited. Are there people crying because she's brown? Sure, but she's not fucking brown. She's white as fuck. Okay, but the way that she communicated the change of the media, I think, is something that's bothering people too, because it's like a little rage baity rather than like being like, oh, we have an updated story. There's some valid concerns, but of course, there's like right wing racists who are just trying to turn it into like some kind of weird political thing. And be sensationalized about the problems. But I think most people are just like, oh, this person doesn't seem particularly interested about the source material, and maybe we could stop changing characters. Like, people who like Snow White, they like the fact that she's a princess. Some girls want to feel like a pretty fucking princess. It's not that big of a deal, right? It's like, make a new one. You know, there's Merida exists now. Like I said, like Merida, you got a bunch of other characters. You make new characters that are stronger women if you want to. Why do you have to change the flow of the dialogue?
So Snow White is being played by none other than Rachel Zegler. I haven't seen Rachel Zegler in anything, so I can't speak to her acting ability. I have, however, seen her a lot just outside of her projects, and she seems like a pretty cool dude. And so the controversy, if you
like hang out with her,
even want to call it that, is around the fact that Rachel Zegler, according to some people, is not white enough to play Snow White.
When I says genuinely, I don't think that that's the majority of the claim. I think that this is like an amplification, or maybe this is just because the sphere he's in is very like terminally online and like obsessed with identity politics. I truly don't think that most people give a singular fuck about that in any meaningful capacity. I think that the issue is she seems unexcited about it. The fact that they're just trying to change the character to be a strong, independent character rather than going with a princess theme, and which is frustrating to people who love Cinderella or Snow White, who it's their favorite person, and like they're changing them fundamentally. I think the way that she talks about it in this unexciting capacity, these are the things I think people really care about. And again, I'm an unironically like a Disney adult. This isn't just coming from that. It's coming from that, a lot of that. These are the things that I'm hearing about it, the frustrations that I'm hearing, not like the, oh my god, she's fucking brown. That's like the Daily Wire crybaby online terminal fucking idiot illness. You know, is it some people saying it? Yeah, but I don't think the majority from like real people in the real world. I don't think the majority of it's coming from that, to be absolutely honest with you.
Certain people seem very upset that this woman has, I guess, literally any visible melanin whatsoever. And you know, honestly, I don't think it's just skin deep. Rachel's ancestry is Colombian and Polish. Colombia is in South America.
Colombia is notoriously very conservative, so there we go, guys.
So she has that Latin American heritage. She identifies herself as a white Latina. I've seen her call herself that across multiple interviews. But people seem to really take issue with the Latina part. That, in conjunction with the fact that even though she's only 23, she is seriously popping off right now, have really just...
Is she? I've honestly never seen anything that she's in. I'm not saying that that's not true, that she's popping off. I mean, I'm an older person, you know. It's crazy because when I was watching Night at the Museum, I'm like, there's a lot of big people in these movies. You got fucking Ricky Gervais, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, fucking Bill Hader's in them, fucking Ant-Man, Paul Rudd. It's crazy. And it's like, I feel like I don't see movies nowadays where I'm like, wow, this is a star cast. Then again, they weren't all necessarily stars back then. But it's just like, I feel like things are changing. Maybe I'm just not, I'm getting older and I don't resonate with, these people don't resonate with me, but...
Just turned into this perfect, awful storm of nonsense where people hate to see her winning. People just hate to see women win in general. But if she
I don't think that's what it is. But
doesn't look exactly the way we want her to, it's just over at that point, I guess. Sure, this woman may have one of the most like Disney princess-esque faces I have ever seen on an actual real human person, but it's not enough in a universe where I guess people expected Snow White to be the color of paper or something.
Again, I mean, there are people saying that because she's like Danish or something and she's literally called Snow White. So they might be saying like, oh, I want her to be very white because it's Snow White. And some people are tired of like forced inclusion just for the sake of it. Again, she's pretty white to me. I think there's a lot of criticisms about the dwarfs. That's insane to me that they basically removed them from the movie. Although I heard that they're trying to CGI them in now. But again, I don't think the majority of the criticism is that she's not perfectly white. Thank you so much for the $5 from It's. read GD. Disney is using CGI to make the Seven Dwarfs for this movie, and it looks deeply unsettling. Yeah, I heard about that. I'm just not going to watch it. It just seems so stupid.
Seriously, be mad about this. It's just like Britney Spears was truly ahead of her time.
It's just a movie. It's pretend. You're an adult. You should know that.
But let's be real. You're not really upset at her skin.
I mean, the problem is like you're like, oh, it's just a movie. It's not that deep. But then if people will complain that there's not enough representation from different people of color in movies, and it's like, well, what if I was just like, well, it's just a movie, it doesn't matter, right? So we know that it's a little more than just a movie. It doesn't have to be like the most morally outraging thing, but like obviously your perspective will change depending on what it is that you feel like you're advocating for.
And Tony, you're upset at the fact that she's Colombian, but see, people can't just come out and say that, right? So they have to have a reason for why they're being so nasty to this woman online, as you're going to see shortly. So I guess the current working theory is that Rachel Zegler secretly hates Snow White, and that's why she is the wrong part for this movie.
Yeah, it's not a secret working theory. Again, people feel very passionate. Like, dude, like I don't even know how to communicate this. If you have ever interacted with a girl who has a favorite Disney movie, you'll understand. Because to them, it feels like you're tearing apart at their soul for changing this character. Even if they're not, it's not their number one favorite. It's like one of my favorites. I can't believe they're changing, because they're changing the character very fundamentally, and it's like a big frustration. And again, is it like kind of immature? Maybe. I mean, like, who really gives a fuck? You could say, but at the same time, it's like people care a lot about their media. I don't really think it has anything to do, or majority wise, I don't think it has much to do with the fact that she is a little dark. She's not even dark skinned. I'm giving a shit about that.
I saw the logo and I went, "That's my name. Snow White's up there," and I cried my eyes out.
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect.
I think that's a pretty typical reaction for people who hate things, right? Is that you're so happy to see yourself as a part of it that you burst into tears?
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Yeah, and again, it's fine to have characters like that. People are off put by that because like, this is my favorite thing. What's wrong with true love? What's wrong with traditional women? And that's how it kind of feels like. It's like, hey, why not make, again, a new character that's a little different? There's a mixture of different things, right? Again, whatever. It's just a different Snow White. But a lot of girls want to be treated like princesses, and it resonates with them. They're a different type of women. There should just be different representation for them all.
People are pretending to be so upset about this.
They're not pretending. You can say that you think it's stupid, but that's fine, but they're really not pretending.
Not believe how many people these words have angered. I think if Disney was to remake the original Snow White shot for shot, that would be a boring movie. Snow White as a character?
Yeah, maybe they just shouldn't remake it. Just don't fucking remake it, man. You were basically agreeing with that point before. You're like, I'm surprised they made a new one, which I think was a TV show that he pointed out, by the way. Yeah, just don't do it.
Really had that much agency in the original movie. I think one of the most active things Snow White does.
But we kind of have to wait for the movie to come out, because maybe it'll be good. That's what we have to see. Maybe it'll be great, and then we'll be like, oh, they did it really well, and then we won't have anything to complain about.
And this film is clean, a house. So I kind of see how someone could look at this and say, maybe there's like more of a story here. Seriously, if you read the description for this movie, you can see that a bunch of things just happen to Snow White. She's not really doing much, and it's safe to say if you tell a story that way today, it's not going to go over well. Also, considering a major plot point is when the prince kisses her when she's not conscious, I think it's safe to say certain changes were in order. But no, actually, you can see this is the most replayed part of the video.
I don't think that we have to like overthink it. Like, it's fine that they would want to change that, but I don't think that we have to it's fucking tailspin into like, oh my god, predatory narrative. It's a fucking, kid show, but whatever.
People are genuinely upset that they have gone in a more modern direction with this film.
And the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
And if you're asking yourself, like, wait, what kind of people could possibly be mad about that? Probably the exact kind of people you're thinking about. I guess Twitter accounts.
Some obnoxious. Well, you see, the problem is referencing Twitter nowadays is like referencing 4chan back in the day, before it was just literal porn always. That's all 4chan is now, is porn. Twitter's not real. Twitter is full of annoying, obnoxious, idiot babies crying for attention. It's not real. It's not to be respected. It's a stupid idiot platform that's really not worth engaging with unless you're looking for brain rot or like legitimate racism. You can't avoid it. It's one of the reasons I don't really use it. Because all jokes aside, like, I don't actually like a bunch of racist shit being pumped into my feed about how different groups of people are wrong or gay people are fucking groomers and shit. It's actually, it's insane. Like how insane, it's a legitimately insane fucking platform. So to use Twitter as a reference for anything to me is just like, okay, yeah, there are fucking lunatics on Twitter. Most people are not those people. Most people actually believe in the criticisms were like, hey, why did they get rid of the dwarfs? Hey, I liked Snow White to be more of a princess role. Hey, like modernizing doesn't mean fundamentally shifting the entire character in a different direction. Thank you so much for the $5 from Wildo. I bet nobody would be upset if they just casted CM Punk as Snow White instead. I actually agree with you, bud. I agree with you. They should have casted CM Punk. Thank you for the $2 from Tobias F.A. Papa. Has anyone said you look like the Doc? I don't know what that means. I'm going to take that as a slur. I think. Okay.
It's like End Wokeness, which apparently has 2.8 million followers. It just gets worse and worse. The new Snow White says that the prince was a creepy stalker and suggests that all the scenes of the prince should be cut. She's a walking PR disaster for Disney.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
If this does not count as weird, I do not know what does. Like, for whoever is running this nonsense account to pretend to be out.
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. If you had, it's about how you express it. If you had said, hey, listen, the old movie's dated, it's older, it doesn't really stand up to the times, and some of it needs to be updated, nobody would have an issue with that. But when you're just like, oh, it was so weird, it was so bad. There are people, again, that really like that story, even with its flaws. They saw it as a kid. There's a level of nostalgia attached to it. And so people, again, Disney adults, there's a lot of us, they're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that they're fundamentally changing the character. They're not modernizing the damsel in distress. They're fundamentally changing the character, and that doesn't resonate with me anymore, and that's upsetting. I think that's like, there are some reasonable criticisms about this.
Outraged at this fact is sending me. Of course the story is weird. We don't have to pretend like the things she's saying in these interviews don't make any sense, or she's overreacting, or she hates Snow White, just so we can make fun of her for who she is, really.
Well, she seems to hate Snow White based on the way she's expressing it. Oh, that movie was fucking terrible. It might be. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while, but...
She finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
To take that out of context and just say she suggests that all of the scenes of the prince could be cut, she's just clearly referencing the fact that movies change due to higher ups all the time because it is in fact Hollywood.
Sure, but the problem is that you're taking an extreme example of an idiot on Twitter with unrealistic criticisms that nobody really gravitates towards except for like angry people who don't even like Disney. And you're portraying that as if that is the general argument of this. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but okay.
It takes so much mental gymnastics to hate people. It's crazy. Rachel Zegler is not a walking PR disaster for Disney. She is just some woman who seems really excited.
I mean, this is the same thing as when people will go and find like a fucking, a cringe gay person on... platformed on Twitter or, promoted on Twitter of them like doing drag in front of kids and be like, see, this is all fucking gay people. And it's like, well, no, it's not. You're being insane. This is just like the worst representation. We're basically doing that, but in reverse here with the criticism about the movie.
Excited about what they've done with Snow White. But nah, my dad and Walt Disney would be turning in their graves over woke Snow White remake. So says the son of the original film's director. And he's apparently accused Disney bosses of insulting the 1937 classic and destroying his father's creation. Also, I'm really glad.
Oh, well, I mean, okay. I mean, if that's his father's creation and he feels that way, why not?
That he talked about
did you know that there was ever been to Disney before in Florida? There's a Muppets 3D Muppets thing. They wanted to do an entire Jim Henson land. I don't know if you know this, and they didn't because Jim Henson died. I think shortly after he made the entire plan for the 3D Muppets thing. And his kids were like, we don't want you to finish and do an entire Muppets land. And they were like, well, can we at least do the 3D, the Muppets 3D? And they're like, yeah, sure. And the reason is because they didn't want them to, basically disrespect the media. So it's understandable because sometimes if they get the rights to some things, it can kind of spiral out of control. So I think it's okay for like the kids to be like, yeah, I don't think that this is what my dad would have wanted. I mean, who would be better to know that? I think it's fair. I think it's fair to criticize. That's their dad's life work in some capacity. So for them to be like, hey, this is shitty. Okay.
destroying I saw this creation, because I want to point this out. Anytime this remake thing comes up and people get really, really upset over the fact that it exists, as if it's somehow, I don't know, overwriting the original, y'all do realize that the original still exists, right? People genuinely act like if you make a new version of a movie, then the original movie just spontaneously combusts, and anybody who has a copy of that movie dies instantly. Like, what do you mean? The original movie still exists. If you want to watch what is frankly a very beautifully animated film and pretty much a cutting edge for its time, go watch it. Disney will be happy to allow you to create a free trial for Disney Plus. That sounded like a sponsorship, but I really do not mess with Disney Plus. I mean, I have.
Well, I have like all the I have like all the all the things. Disney Plus, Hulu. I think they might have even merged, so it's kind of stupid. I have Netflix, I have Amazon, I have everything.
Unfortunately, but I don't support it. Does that make sense? But yeah, this 91-year-old son,
HBO,
has a lot to say about this film. Wait, 91 is like even older than the movie. That is crazy. Goals. But hopefully when I get there, I'm not this lame, honestly. I'm afraid of what they're going to do with the early films. Their thoughts are just so radical now, he says of Disney. They changed the stories. They changed the thought processes of the characters. They just aren't the original stories anymore. They're making up new woke things, and I'm just not into any of that. Yo, new woke thing just dropped. It's called women having agency.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. Even the most normal person is starting to get worn down by the forced inclusion sometimes. It feels like sometimes they're making different pieces of media. I think Star Wars is a great example of this, that has some, has more inclusion, which is fine, but then the movie just fucking sucks balls. And I think that some people are just associating the fact that it sucks because there's like, representation in it, but it sucks because the writers are fucking lazy. Like Star Wars Episode 7 was decent. She shouldn't have beaten Kylo Ren. Rey shouldn't have beaten Kylo Ren at the end. It made no sense. She should only she should have been able to stand toe to toe with Kylo Ren for training for so long. We stopped the fucking laser blast with the Force is because he was injured, not like an excuse to have him or win. It neuters the character. Then Episode 8 killed every plot line. Like, it actually destroyed it. Episode 7 wasn't that bad, but Episode 8 destroys it, right? So people often associate that. They're like, oh, in a lot of instances, it feels like, oh, you're just trying to add more inclusion into these shows and these movies, and then your script ends up fucking sucking balls. And some of them are, maybe having a negative interaction with that. Because people with Fallout, for the most part, even like the Critical Drinker, liked it a lot. It was well written. It was solid. It had a female protagonist. It was good. It had good representation of like a strong female character and lead. But it didn't neuter, the other male characters just to make her look better. She wasn't a Mary Sue. They even had a trans character. Again, cool, but they didn't like fucking morally masturbate about how they're trans. They just made them trans and exist, which I think is great. I think that's a perfect inclusion. It doesn't always have to be part of the character that they're like that identity is theirs. They can just be fucking, just make a fucking trans guy, add the person in there, and boom, you're good. They were a good actor. It was great, right? And so it makes it difficult for these people to criticize it because that show is great. It was fucking incredible. When you actually respect the media instead of like lazily go, well, we got some women in it and some black people in it, so let's just make a lazy piece of shit, right? So, dude, Kylo Ren was fucking awesome. This is a hot take. The first half of the movie, Kylo Ren was cooler than Darth Vader. I'm not even trying to be a fucking asshole. I kind of got that feeling, personally. If you disagree, that's fine. I was like, this guy, he's actually fucking badass. And I love Adam Driver. I think he's phenomenal. He was fucking awesome. And then, like, the 70% of the way in the movie, he has a temper tantrum and starts breaking things. And it's like, it just felt stupid and demeaning. And then he loses to Rey. And it's like, what the fuck? And then they kill off the main bad guy, Snoke from fucking Hunger Games. Snoke? Whatever. Randomly. It's like, who's the enemy? Oh, we got to throw Palpatine in there for no reason. You know what I mean? It's just like somebody's just not respecting the media that they're interacting with. It's fucking crazy.
I'm sorry, this is legitimately funny. Like, it is actually funny to me. It probably shouldn't be, but this is just where I am today. But that's not all people were mad about. Actually, I have to be honest, this next one's kind of weird. So this set photo leaked, and you can see the 7 dwarves, which all seem...
They shouldn't... These aren't dwarves. They're a bunch of... There's one dwarf. Everybody else... Like, I don't understand this representation. This isn't even good representation. Like, make them, make black dwarves, Hispanic dwarves, fucking whatever, gay dwarves, trans dwarves. I don't give a shit. Put them in a fucking wheelchair, steampunk wheelchair. But why would you just not make them dwarves? What the fuck?
Seem to be played by people without dwarfism. Almost all of them seem to be played by people without dwarfism, which is very confusing to me.
It's wrong. It's just stupid. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
In fact, I was so
just taking away jobs at that point, huh?
very confused that I was like, nah, these cannot be real. This is not a real photo, right? But actually, the story has been updated to reflect that after Disney's US spokesperson initially declared the photos published by the Daily Mail were fake, the studio later said the photos were from the production but were not official photos. So I guess even
they are production photos.
Disney realized that the optics of this are crazy. I'm not really sure what would motivate them to do this. So I am confused over the actors because I guess in my mind, they don't really fit the parts. However, you can probably imagine that the same people who were angry at Snow White for not being white enough, according to them and their definition, were angry about this photo for a different reason. Can you maybe guess in your mind what different reason?
I think that you're intentionally trying to downplay like how disrespectful it is to dwarf actors for displacing their ability to work. It's not easy to be like a dwarf actor. There's very limited roles. And so taking away 6 positions from dwarves for what? I just don't think you could justify it, especially if you're a more progressive leaning individual. Like, how do you justify that? I just personally don't understand it. Like, if you can bring respect to the role. If there are some, if you feel like historically the dwarves were poor representations of dwarves, because of some stereotypes, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can change those aspects of it. That's the proper way to modernize something. But it's stupid to just not make them dwarves anymore. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Thank you for the $2 from Martyr Rules. Is that what it is? Martyr Rules? Peter Dinklage is the reason Dwarfs got replaced. Peter Dinklage is a great actor, and he could suck a fart out of my ass. Like, honestly. All right, first of all, Game of Thrones sucked. The ending was fucking horrible. The beginning was phenomenal. The greatest piece of media ever until, like, the last season. The second to last season was a little rough, too, but whatever. Last season really shit in my fucking pants. But, like, still, I don't really care. You can address the criticism Peter Dinklage was making of like, hey, you know what I mean? It's not a good representation of little people because of these stereotypes. You could have just changed that and added more respect to the role. If somebody would actually have cared about the role, you could have fucking brought on a dwarf writer. You could have Warwick Davis. I don't know. You could have brought on a little person writer, and they could have been like, hey, this is disrespectful. Here's why. Boom, done. But they didn't do that the right way. They're fucking lazy.
There is to be upset about this. Is anything
and I really don't get it because you can pay them half, you know what I mean?
Anything really jumping out at you? Snow White and the 7 politically correct companions? Pictures of live action remakes show stand-in princess walking with diverse band of merry men and women. Fellas, is it politically correct to be black? Meet the cast of Disney's new woke.
It's literally called Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. It doesn't make any sense. You can't even defend this one. I don't know why. This is why the commentary comes off as very biased. Because it's like, yeah, maybe they should have been dwarves. That's kind of weird. But, people are just upset that they're black. And it's like, okay, it sounds like you're not trying. You seem to have like a motive that you're operating with. And you're operating with is like dismissing every criticism. Instead of sifting through the criticisms of like, oh, this is a reasonable one. This is unreasonable. You're just you want the criticism to be racism is everywhere. But you are on Twitter. You're terminally online. Of course it's on Twitter. That is what Twitter is. It is racism.
Snow White film. Snow White is Colombian now, and the 7 dwarves look more like the 6 normal-sized hipster... Okay, this is just so extreme. And 1 dwarf from Portland. Snow White no longer has skin as white as snow. Absolutely ridiculous. But, instead of listening to all of these people be mad about this for some reason, one bit of criticism, and this is actually a bit older, but it cropped back up recently, because like I said...
Here we go. He's gonna use Peter Dinklage's pick-me energy. Here we go. Well, this dwarf agrees with me. Yep, I can't be racist because I have a black friend.
The Snow White situation has been going on for a while. The actor, Peter Dinklage, who's been in everything from Game of Thrones to The Hunger Games to, most importantly, Elf, he actually does have dwarfism. And before Disney's weird set photo leaked and we realized that there were 6 people without it playing these characters, he already seemed like he was really just not vibing with this movie at all. In 2022, he said, "Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way and you're still making that backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. What are you doing, man?" Now,
you could just make it so that they don't live in a cave together. Wow, incredible,
my first thought when I read this was, oh no, not Peter Dinklage. I thought he was doing the like anti-woke thing that we're all doing, I guess. But in that same statement, he said he meant literally no offense to anyone, and he sent all love and respect to the actress and to the people who thought they were doing the right thing. So this, I'm actually really happy about. I went into this low-key concerned.
It doesn't even sound like, from what he showed us, that Peter Dinklage wanted them to not make them dwarves. It just sounded like he wanted respect to be added to the role. Cool.
I don't think he's playing into this whole we all hate Rachel Zegler for no reason nonsense at all. I actually really appreciate the fact that he stood up for her. But nah, he was mad. He was mad. He said, have I done nothing to advance the cause for my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. He added that he would enthusiastically support a more sensitive retelling of the 85-year-old film with a cool progressive spin on it, but wasn't otherwise convinced. So
yeah, that doesn't sound like he's calling to end it. It sounds like he's just like, hey, I would like to see a little more respect added to little people, which by the way is completely reasonable.
So
it would have been good for him to be like, why did you not make them dwarves? Like, again, the way that you should have done the 7 dwarves in Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs remake is you should have modernized it, and you should have had like a legitimate consulting, like I don't know, some kind of a fucking dwarf advocate for like whatever, you know, to come in and be like, hey, this is respectful, this is not, this is diminishing, this should change, this, you know what I mean, and work around that.
I do not believe that Peter Dinklage is an op, which is a sentence I never thought I would say before today. I am a little bit unclear on where he's coming from because I don't think the 7 dwarves live in a cave. I think the whole point was they lived in the house that Snow White cleaned for them. They might have worked in a cave, but regardless, I just want to point out, I am not here to tell a person who has dwarfism how to feel about this movie, which has influenced probably the majority of people alive right now's perception of dwarfism. Whether he was being uncharitable.
I mean, I've never had like a negative thought of dwarves or anything, but
about the original movie or not, Peter Dinklage has every right to feel however he wants to about it. And I'm very
I guess you can give pushback. You don't have to be a coward. If you feel like you disagree with him, you could be like, hey, you know, I disagree. I don't think like it's probably more complicated than just the cave thing. You know, I don't really know. So again, hire the correct people to, you know, do this thing.
You're much more willing to play stock in his opinion than that of people pretending to be upset. I have no idea what kind of frustration Peter Dinklage has faced in Hollywood, but the fact that I can't really name any other mainstream Hollywood actors that have dwarfism.
And therein lies the problem, right? You can't, because the roles are limited, and now we've limited them further.
Probably indicates there's a lot of frustration there. So even if I don't know exactly what about the story stood out to him in a negative way, I absolutely believe there would be stereotypes there that would reinforce that I would have no way of knowing because I simply am not educated.
Well, you could educate yourself by asking questions instead of just like blindly like, yeah, you know what, I agree with him because he agrees with you. You just want to agree with him because like you want to turn it all into everything is racist, and it's not. Again, everything on Twitter is racist. But that's the problem with this like commentary is it's not trying to be impartial or fair. It's just trying to do its best impression of everybody. Everything is racist. That's it.
I haven't even seen enough representation in media of this. But I guess Disney's creative interpretation of this was not hiring people with dwarfism ? To avoid reinforcing.
Right, let's see what we got here. Let's see if you have the right take here.
Seeing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these 7 characters and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community, a spokesperson said. We look forward to sharing.
I almost completely do not believe that. There's no way they would have said, yeah, just don't have any dwarves in our movie.
More as the film heads into production after a lengthy development period.
Warwick Davis, I know who Warwick Davis is. Yeah, he's friends with Ricky Gervais. I love Warwick Davis. Went on to call out Peter Dinklage for his take on the matter. He said Peter Dinklage just put 7 of us out of a job. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. I'll just so you guys know. Here we go. This is Warwick Davis. You guys know who that is. He's a great actor.
And, you know, I can't...
Again, I don't think that Dinklage... So it sounds like his words did inspire Disney to put other dwarves out of a job, but I don't think that's what he intended to communicate. The problem is that when Disney made the wrong choice to just remove those roles, he didn't stand up and be like, that's not what I meant, which is what he could have done instead.
Speak for Peter Dinklage, but something just tells me that's probably not what he meant. I don't feel like his statements were saying, Disney, if I see one person with dwarfism in your movie, it's on sight. But I guess that's where we are. And you may be thinking, well, D'Angelo, technically there was like that one person with dwarfism in the movie, right? Let's just say that after this photo leak, Disney went in another different direction, and you are genuinely not prepared for how cursed this is. Oh, man. So, gone are any human beings at all. This is leaked footage, I think, from that D23-24 Expo, where we can see the dwarfs have been replaced by this. I'm sorry. I hate this. I don't know if I'm like not supposed to or supposed to, but right now, I can only be honest with you. Something is wrong here. There's something about these eyes.
I just looked it up, and there's a full year between Dinklage's quote and Disney's changing the dwarves, but Disney claims they talk to some dwarf advocacy groups. Well, yeah, no, it's possible that he didn't even directly inspire it. But now we have like a legitimate problem here, though, because the dwarves are still in the movie, and like, so the dwarves are still in the movie, even if they're CGI, which means that Disney has the capacity. Because I imagine they would want to be respectful of the representation of dwarves, so you'd imagine that they would do that, which means Disney has the capacity to be respectful of the representation of the dwarves, but they're just not being played by dwarf actors. At least make them dwarf voice actors. You know what I mean? Like, that's their thing. They're fucking little people. Okay, I don't understand.
That I don't trust. Like, before he smiles, he looks so soulless, and then he smiles, and his eyes don't really change. I think I hate it. Like, why is this actually giving the Polar Express, but somehow 5 times worse because it's coming out now? I genuinely don't even think the Polar Express was as bad as what I've just seen. But yeah, seeing as how people are upset that Rachel Zegler is playing Snow White despite not being the color of literal
What about the Bipolar Express, starring my wife?
snow, they're upset about the changes that have been made to the story, even though the story itself was just begging to be changed because, gosh, there was some weird stuff there. And seeing as Disney clearly has...
It's just like fucking kid gloves when it comes to the criticism of completely phasing out jobs for dwarves, but like over affirming like the racist aspect of it, which again, that's a criticism from fucking Twitter idiots. But most people are just upset that they're changing their beloved fucking show. And if you wanted to just like go into it from a nostalgia perspective of like, hey, listen, like, everybody gets upset when their nostalgia gets changed, you know? And again, like, for instance, they get rid of Disney rides at Disney sometimes. And it's like, oh, that sucks. I love that ride. Again, they're getting rid of A Bug's Life. They're getting rid of, like, the dinosaur ride. And the first thing you do is you're like, oh, this is bullshit. But then you're like, you know what? Things need to change. They need to be updated. They need to be modernized. Because some people, like young people, you know, kids... They want something new. They want something that resonates with them, that's written in like their generation, which is totally understandable. But we're not even referencing that. We're just completely dismissing any reasonable criticism and just being like, oh, everything's racist, and everybody who disagrees with me by extension is also racist. And it's like, okay.
No idea how to handle the 7 dwarfs part of the title. This movie is a PR disaster, and it's not any singular person's fault. But when the trailer came out for this, people were going to tout. And you had a bunch of people coming together for a bunch of different reasons. Some of them valid, others were just absolutely unhinged. So let's try to sort some of those out. Where's the white in Snow White? Stop appropriating my culture.
I hope that he just for once, he brings up like an actual reasonable criticism that exists instead of just constantly looks at the racist comments and tries to make it seem like that's most of them. Because we have one like on this comment that he's checking out. It says highlighted comment, and the reason, and I just want to be absolutely clear, social media accounts absolutely curate the comments that you see based on the individual. I saw a video on TikTok about it. They're going to show you comments that you want to interact with more. I think a girl on TikTok was like, oh, the comment section for this same video was different for my boyfriend than me, because different comments resonate with people differently, and they absolutely can use AI to filter and show you what you would want to see based on the consumer that you are. So it's possible, let's say for instance that you find a video of like a fat person just existing, and like some comments are like, wow, you know, slay queen, and some comments are like, ew, you're disgusting, right? Because different people are going to resonate with that. Obviously losers are going to feel the need to constantly morally fucking melt down every time they see the existence of a fat person, and then some people are going to be over affirming in some instances depending on it, right? So the fact that he's seeing a highlighted comment communicates to me like that's the comment that resonates with you the most, is a negative racist comment, because people like to engage with things that they don't like. That's literally like an entire social media thing. So
I think it's safe to...
he saved it for the video? What the fuck does that mean?
Say this one's
Oh, you're
unhinged.
talking about something else.
Does Disney know what white is? I mean, do you know what white is though? Because y'all seem really hung up on that word when, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Rachel Zegler is white. That actually adds a level of maybe not humor, but something that you are really outraged about Snow White being played by a white woman. Who's the fairest of them all? It's Snow Brown with skin as dark as tree bark.
Okay, well, maybe it's a light tree.
This person has never seen a tree. Oh my God. We're out here telling people to touch.
Pretty sure that the comments just means that he saved it and clicked on the link for a specific comment. Oh, maybe. That's totally possible. Okay, we'll see if we see any regular comments. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Grass. Go outside at all. Look out the window. Google grass in the hopes that you maybe will see a tree. What are you on? Maybe don't ever hire Rachel Zegler again for literally anything. And always remember, free Disney from the woke mind virus. Period. They ate with this comment. They ate with that. Period. They ate. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. The witch is whiter than Snow White. Y'all aren't even trying with these comments. Let's just see what else people are saying. Oh, okay. So apparently Rachel Zegler is ugly. Note to Disney, if you want to make a movie about a queen being jealous of the princess's beauty, then make the princess beautiful. It's happened. We have reached a level of brain rot where we are now pretending that this individual is not conventionally attractive. Like, if this is not showing you how hard people have to reach to have something negative to say about this woman, I genuinely don't know what is. If she wasn't conventionally attractive, she still wouldn't deserve literally any of this. However, this is just nonsensical, because you honestly think Disney would have allowed her anywhere near this set if she did not look like this? Y'all got me messed up. The only thing I don't understand is why would Gal Gadot, who's playing, you know, the evil
So
witch.
I just decided to go. I'm assuming that this is the same video that he's looking at. Disney Snow White trailer teaser. Right? I think that's what he's looking at. I could be wrong. I'm just going to read the comments from top to, like, from, you know, the biggest thing Disney accomplished, the trailer is leaving the comment section open. That's funny. Making the dwarf CGI so they don't have to hire a dwarf is wild. Reasonable criticism. Shrek has more respect for Snow White. That's pretty vague, but seems reasonable. I spent an hour reading the comment section. Would never spend time watching the actual movie. Watching the actual movie. Again, not racist. Rachel Zegler, if you enjoyed the original movie, this movie isn't for you. Well, I guess this movie isn't for 99% of people. Again, of Disney fans. Okay, again, reasonable, non-racist criticism. Disney invites you, and I must politely decline. Okay, comment section is more entertaining than the trailer. This is actually hilarious. The first Snow White saved Disney. The second ruined it. I'm rooting for the poison apple. It's all CGI, and they call it live action. Weird. So far, I'm just raw dogging it. I haven't seen a single racist comment. And so it makes me wonder, why are you highlighting all the racist comments? And this is the same comment here, right? Yeah, this is the same comment like here that is here. I have to admit the bravery to keep it open. Same comment, same person saying it. So this is this video. My life's pretty pointless and boring, but this comment section brought me back to life. Project normal, decent people at all costs. Okay, great. My condolences to all the little people actors who denied 7 roles in the name of progress and tolerance. Again, this is what I'm talking about. This is the representation of D'Angelo Wallace's video. It is sensationalize the racism to do as much as possible to dismiss all reasonable criticism. It's kids' gloves when it comes to reasonable criticism. You should be outraged that a marginalized group of people, dwarfs, are losing their jobs. You even made a comment, I don't really know any dwarf actors. Well, yeah, well, why the fuck do you think? Because one of the very limited possibilities for a dwarf actor to exist was stripped away. But you don't care, because this is more about hating woke, anti-woke Twitter idiots than it is about having reasonable commentary. That's literally it. I'm going to keep reading these, but I have to have my guy attack that. Sorry. It's okay, Disney. You can just cancel the film. We won't be mad. This is why YouTube doesn't show downvotes. No dwarves, no prince, no love equals no magic. Again, where the fuck is the racism? Dwarf actors in Hollywood. We need to work to put food on the table. Disney. No, that's offensive. Snow White. There's nothing. I'm not seeing any racist stuff. Snow White, I don't need a man. The prince, that's fine. I'm here for your stepmom. That's kind of good. So far, I'm not seeing any racist shit. Is it exist in there? I'm sure it does. But why are you highlighting this incorrectly? It's just like you know what you're doing. You know, he knows exactly what he's doing. Or they, whatever. I don't know. This isn't about having like a real conversation. This is about like him and his audience morally masturbating. I'm a good person because I think racism is bad. Wow. Incredible. That's fucking wild. Me too. That's why I bow every time I see a person of color in the grocery store, and then I give them my spot and I pay for their meal. And I go, I love people of color. They're so amazing. It's the only right way to combat racism is to make sure that you highlight the race of people. Okay? It's incredible. Obviously, you should be sensitive to people, but Jesus Christ, it's like, holy fuck. Like, it's just additionally funny because you're doing so much to not criticize this movie, just to own the fucking conservatives, that you're completely ignoring an entire marginalized group of people, like dwarfs, of like little people. And it's funny. It's funny. Thank you so much for the 2 month small gut from In Pain 28. Hey chat, what's your favorite social security number? That's great. It's mine. It's the old man social security number that I stole last year. You guys want it?
Which, be fearful of the beauty of Rachel Zegler, because that's how the movie goes. The original movie. Have you not actually watched it? The same people who are so upset at people for apparently not getting the point of this movie.
And again, like, what did he do? He either went through and highlighted the racist comments to show those first, to show you, to try to make it seem like that was most of the comments, or the algorithm was feeding it to him because he's obsessed with race. It's one of those two. I'm assuming I'm going to trust you guys. I'm a little technologically silly. So he was highlighting the racist comments to show you that more than any of the other normal comments.
Movie don't seem to remember this movie very well. The evil queen or witch or whatever she was, because I haven't watched this in a while, was objectively a baddie. She was bad as hell, honestly. Why are you shook? I don't even know what the mirror was on in the original movie, honestly. The mirror kind of set her up, and I think that's the same thing that's happening in this new movie. To be like, oh, Gal Gadot is too pretty to ever want to look like Rachel Zegler, question mark, you'd have totally missed the point of the film. While simultaneously claiming that Disney has missed the point of the film, which you have not yet watched. Also, speaking of missing points, I also see a lot of people dragging Peter Dinklage. Nice job, Peter Dinklage. They made animated dwarfs in a live action movie instead of hiring real people. Very progressive. This is just...
Okay, now here's what we're going to see. You can say, I don't think it was Peter Dinklage, but please, for at the very least, acknowledge for once that it is a bad thing that they didn't use dwarf actors. Because if the original movie was Snow White and the 7 handsome black men, and they made them non-black, you'd probably be like, that's shitty. So let's kind of hear it.
Such a stupid comment, because I read you what this man said, and nowhere did any of his commentary indicate that he did not want to see actors with dwarfism absolutely killing it in this movie. How is this Peter's fault? Y'all will literally just say anything to frame being very progressive as a bad thing. The moment Peter Dinklage...
he didn't make the criticism. He can't bring himself to give any validity to any criticism. I already knew it was going to happen. This is fucking boring. This is boring, lazy, and safe commentary. This is what's the slop my audience wants. It's stupid. Like, thank you so much for the $5 from Evander Jones. Wow, what a healthy and in shape young man. Lying. Are you talking about me, dude? I'm actually old. I went to the gym today, bro. I'm feeling a little sick. I didn't sleep too much last night. Okay, I hit it. I did decent. I did some stiff-legged deadlifts. I did some military press, where you put your heels together. I'm trying to get more of a simulation of my side delts. Okay, motherfucker? Alright, bitch. Suck it, okay?
Glitch stood up and said no dwarfs will ever act in Hollywood and got 7 literal dwarfs fired was truly an Oscar-worthy scene. Sent chills down my spine. Like, I know this person is joking in some way, even though they obviously have a point that they're making here. But if you knew...
Is the point valid to some extent, do you think? They have a point that they're making here. Again, he can't give any... He just can't give any validity to the points. Thank you for the $10 from Ben Schmoder. Hey, Pop, I watched you religiously during COVID when transphobia was popular, and your conversations made me more accepting of others and probably saved me from the red pill. Keep doing you. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It's funny because I've been getting some decently, I've been getting some trans people DMing me. Unfortunately, not with their cute girl cocks, but whatever. No, I'm just kidding. But a lot of them were happy. There was the commentary I did on the Lily Tino and Colleen situation, where, like, you know, Lily Tino is not a particularly good person. I don't like them, but Colleen was falsely accusing them of, like, sexual harassment. And one of the points that I brought up is I had a conversation about how being very clear when you do not want somebody to ask or engage in a certain way. So, like, hey, like, what you need to be very explicit about no, because sometimes men can struggle with men are emotionally unintelligent. Let's just be real, and they can struggle with, like, roundabouts when you're like, oh, you know, maybe you have to sometimes be very direct and clear. And I was like, you know, that's one of the struggles that Lily might be having. Lily's not a man. Lily's a trans woman, but when you grow up for 18 years, socialized as a man, and then you transition, you know, when you're 18, you don't magically know how it is to grow up as a woman. And so that's one of the struggles that trans people have, is struggling for that, because you don't have the intuitiveness of, like, you know, acting a certain way. And, like, so if trans people are like, wow, that's, like, cool, if I appreciate that. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty smart. Pretty cool guy. Pretty handsome guy. Of course, my wife's in the chat to hear me make the comment about cute trans cock, but you know what? If you had a dick, baby, I'd suck the fuck out of it. So
knew anything about the situation, you would know that actually, technically, people without dwarfism were fired. These people were fired. Literally, everybody in this situation lost. Whether that was Peter Dinklage, the actors with dwarfism, the actors without it. But
okay, but generally, the dwarf is lost more. Because it's very limited roles for little people to be engaging in.
Pin this on him is absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? Some of these comments I do agree with. They
oh my god, finally
remade one animated movie and
yes, that's a criticism, but it's not like I make it point. What's
to
else?
another animated movie.
Okay,
seriously,
what else?
if you just scrub through this trailer, there is so much like bad CGI. I think it's pushing the limits of what live action even means. What's the point of doing a live action remake of an animated movie if you're just going to animate half the characters?
Is that the only criticism you're going to highlight? Is like, hey, why did they animate some of it? Holy fuck.
Anyway, I truly don't believe like everybody who finds this movie to be kind of lame is.
You couldn't put it in my ass, babe, if you had it, because that's too feminine. You know what I mean? For me, getting fucked in the ass, there's no way to maintain your masculinity. You know, having somebody put it in your butt. It's fine if you like doing that, guys, but like for me, I need to maintain my. You know, that's me. I'm a more traditional masculine guy. Nothing wrong with that. So, you know, you can't put it in my poop chute because I feel I wouldn't be able to control that situation. I would feel too self-conscious about that. So,
a bad person or like things that Rachel Zegler is awful, because that's truly not the case. I'll be honest, that first clip looked like it came straight out of an AI prompt.
Okay, so he's just going to highlight the criticisms of like, haha, there's too much AI. And like, that's a great, fine criticism, but he's not highlighting the actual reasonable criticisms people are giving of like fundamentally changing the character. You know, you can modernize something without changing Snow White, or the fact that they don't have any like dwarves playing the fucking dwarves and that there's limited roles. Again, he's literally, I mean, at this point, he's guzzling Disney cum more than a fucking overweight woman with horse teeth does when they're at Disney. Let's be fucking real, okay? Because there is a type when it comes to Disney adults, and it's called desperate and easy, guys. So if you're looking for some, I can't commit to the joke. But seriously, he's fucking like, he's just like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it kind of really, really does. It's just, this movie does not look good. Like, I don't even mean looks bad, as in I don't think it's going to be a good movie. It just looks bad. It's bad to look at. The Snow White dress looks like one of those itchy kid party dresses. I just feel like they could have gone so much harder with this. That wig is crazy as hell. They made that poor girl look like Lord Farquaad. This one's kind of hard to defend. But I find the framing of this comment sympathetic towards
You've been doing a good job defending literally everything, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. So
Rachel Zegler, and that's definitely where I find myself as well. But trust me, people who have legitimate concerns with the movie are few and far between. Most people are like,
well, you haven't highlighted it. It's been 21 fucking minutes of your 26-minute video, and you have not acknowledged a single criticism in the beginning. So, you got anything?
Thank Peter Dinklage for not having real actors in the story. Gal Gadot doesn't even need a mirror to know who's the most beautiful. End of story.
I'm surprised I haven't seen anybody talk about how Gal Gadot's fucking Jewish, considering all the fucking racism and anti-Semitism on Twitter. You know? But I guess they would be like, oh, well, she should be the bad guy role, you know? By the way, I don't agree with that commentary, okay? I'm a good guy. I'm actually just shocked that there's not any anti-Semitism though.
And actually, this seems like a good time to bring up a beef that I have, like a really specific beef, because
I honestly would have assumed that you were vegan. Okay, so it's a little silly dad joke you got for there, guys.
So many of these people are on YouTube. I can't even watch Disney-related content. Let me know if this is real though. For me personally, I find that if I click into a video that is about Star Wars or Disney or something, maybe that's like kids movies, something like that, I almost want to say 9 times out of 10, it's this. It's not somebody who actually cares about the thing they're talking about. It's just somebody who
you are that person. You do not. Oh fuck! I just fucked myself. You do not care about what you're talking about at all. It is very clear that you have no interest about the topic of Disney. You have the only interest that you have is defending, is portraying all the criticism as just bad fucking anti-woke people, while just when this is not the right representation, just so that you can get an epic own on the fucking conservatives.
who wants to wage war against like all women, people of color, any sort of diversity. Like they label it all DEI and they claim everything is woke. And I'm just like, bro, you're entire.
Yeah, you engage with brain rot all the time. That's the only thing that you look at. You don't look at like regular criticisms of things. You just look at, because you don't want to, because it doesn't pay the bills. You know, and that's what's fortunate for me is like what I tend to, my content I make is like general, I think, decent, reasonable commentary that's like real world perspective, right? Yours is not. Like you get paid to highlight this and to sensationalize this issue, and then you start to fucking believe it. So
Your career is just pretending to care about kids media so you can complain about women existing? I swear to God, the state of like Disney, Star Wars, and kids movie related content on YouTube is so
well. I mean, like Star Wars is like legitimate. I don't know anything about the Acolyte movie. I heard people criticize the lesbian kiss. I don't know or care about that because I didn't watch it myself. But like the episode 7, I just explained to you like the issues with it. It was a great movie up until like the 70% mark of the movie, and then the tone shifts, and then when Rey wins, it's just dog shit, and then they killed the episode 8. So, like, there are reasonable criticisms. Obviously, some people are just going to be sexist, but there are reasonable criticisms that you want to sift through. If you don't want to, that's fine, but don't make it seem like all of it's unreasonable.
Dire. And I know there's probably some banger creators out there, but it is so difficult to find them amongst just the droves of this. And even though there are aspects of this which are objectively funny, a lot of this just really isn't. And the core of the issue isn't really funny at all because Rachel Zegler is a real person. I personally think she's been handling this all super.
Oh, yeah? Well, Gal Gadot is real person. It's a little dad joke, and it doubles because my dad's the Jew.
Super well. Last year, she's
Jewish. Okay.
We did extremely appreciative.
That makes me Jewish because I'm like half. Don't worry, guys. It's ethnic. Some people are confused about that. Did you know that Tourette's is apparently there's a higher chance of having Tourette's if you're like an Ashkenazi Jew, and I do have tics. Isn't that incredible? I don't know if they're Tourette's or if they're stress tics. You know, because I don't know if it's obsessive compulsive or if it's Tourette's. Because when I was born, the doctor told my mother to get me tested for Tourette's because I probably had it. She didn't because it wasn't something like so intense that it had an impact. Right, which I tend to agree with, like that fundamentally speaking is like, you know, you don't necessarily need a diagnosis if you're able to handle it with like, you know, whatever behavioral issues. But it is triggered more by stress. And then I have like obsessive compulsive behaviors, my wife tells me. You know, she's a behavioral specialist. So it's kind of a good person to give that commentary. I'm not saying I have like a legitimate diagnosis. Again, I have the ability to manage my obsessive compulsive behaviors generally. Now that I'm talking about them, I really want to engage in them, which is probably not good. One of them is evening out my nipples. My mom will sometimes smack my nipple so that I will sit there for like 5 minutes trying to adjust because she's a fucking asshole. But it's all in good fun, you know? Anyway, talking a lot. I'm on a tangent. Let's move on.
Of the love I feel from those defending me online.
Sorry.
But please don't tag me in the nonsensical discourse about my casting. I really, truly do not want to see it. It is absurd to type just the nastiest stuff you can think of towards somebody who, at the end of the day...
I type some nasty shit towards my wife, baby.
Is a real person. And if
it's insane. Some dirty shit.
you're thinking like, oh, come on, D'Angelo, like people are calling her brown. Is that the nastiest thing?
D'Angelo.
No, I'm talking about the people who are literally sending her death threats. Someone should kill you, says this person on Twitter. To which Rachel very comedically points out that she's playing Juliet in like a production of Romeo and Juliet. So technically she will be dying a lot anyway. Fun fact, I will be dying 8 times a week on Broadway this fall. Get your tickets, Lee. Also at FBI. I really, really love this response because the flex of like, you're mad at me, but I'm literally on Broadway is incredible. Like she just seems funny. She just seems like a sweet person. I don't really know her, but from what I've seen, nothing she's done could justify even a fraction of the way people are treating this woman online. Also,
well, of course, sending death threats and having a meltdown about how they're not white when they literally are is stupid. But there are some reasonable criticisms. Sasibaka.
So at FBI is so funny. This is really just like a different font of the same nonsense that everybody tried to pull with Halle Bailey playing Ariel in the Little Mermaid remake. And guess what? Maybe the Little Mermaid remake did not need to exist. Maybe the Snow White remake really does.
I'm not even trying to be rude. I didn't realize how far apart her eyes were. I'm sorry. That's just shitty. Because I'm fat and ugly, but I just like, wow, interesting.
Doesn't seem like it needs to exist. And Disney has botched almost every single part of it. But Disney is a corporation.
I tried to give it a chance because I wanted to buy a Disney Little Mermaid Loungefly. Like legitimately, I wanted to buy like a new one. Because I like buying Loungeflies, and the movie just was so fucking boring. I gave it like a half an hour. I was like, this is so fucking boring. What am I supposed to do with this dog shit? So unfortunately, I couldn't engage with that.
And they are a company, they are a group. And so directing your ire towards the women involved, it just really signals to me that people aren't really discussing these movies because they care about the movies at all. It's just a very convenient platform for you to pretend like you're attacking these people for a specific reason, but we all know there's
it's all racism and there's no valid criticisms.
And I don't have to sit here and spell it out. Guess what? Snow White.
Maybe you do, because I'm such a silly little dumb goose.
It does look terrible. This movie looks really bad, but that is Disney.
And there's no dwarves in it, which is pretty unfortunate.
His fault, and to blame Rachel Zegler or Peter Dinklage is nonsensical. Y'all need to touch grass, or as we've seen, Google a tree, which is just like a new level of terminally online. But that's my take. Dave's take is that he should have been the one to play Snow White because he is literally the color of paper, and I've actually found that pretty hard to argue against, but I'm working on it. And as for your take, I am quite curious. I mean, this is the part where I think a layman would tell you to subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video, but which is what you're doing, of course. Okay. Going to ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and leave your feedback, because this is, of course, a 100% completely, totally, maybe not all the way, but somewhat mostly not unaccredited university that I'm running here. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We are totally legit, probably. But thus concludes the lecture. Honestly, whether you see me in 24 hours or in 24 months is anyone's guess. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you all have a very woke, politically correct day.
Great. Okay. So that's that one. Now let's see the criticism from Diesel Patches. Let's see what we got here. It's called D'Angelo Wallace is wrong. Okay. Well, I agree generally, but I wonder if you are saying they're wrong for the correct reasons. So let's see what we got, or at least in my opinion. Okay, but again, I'm the smartest guy in the room. So, you know, you gotta listen to me.
So D'Angelo Walnut uploaded a video about the new live-action remake of Disney's Snow White movie titled "Snow White is Brown Now, and People Are Being Very Normal." Smiley face. I've already shared my initial thoughts in regards to the controversy surrounding this film.
Do I want to see that? Should we look at that? And just to give us like an update and see if we like agree with it, or.
But I will be repeating some of those points here because.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're gonna repeat them, I'm not gonna bother with that.
Because D'Angelo says a bunch of cringe. I'll be honest, I'm not a big D'Angelo.
Got him, Percy from Thomas the Tank Engine, one of my favorite shows growing up. My mom made me a homemade Thomas the Tank Engine Halloween costume, and also she took a projector from her work when that was popular, and she projected a Thomas the Tank Engine on a wall, an accent wall, and she stenciled out Thomas the Tank Engine on that wall. Isn't that fucking awesome? Also did the Ninja Turtles at one point. If I have pictures one day, I'll show you. Thank you for $5 from Evander Jones again. Would you rather attend Hustlers University or D'Angelo Wallace's college? Obviously, D'Angelo Wallace's college. Like, sitting through some annoying cringe virtue signaling isn't as bad as a literal sex trafficking rapist piece of shit that needs to like not be around anymore. I think that's obvious. You know, let's not pretend that generally speaking, the left is as bad as the right. They're more annoying, right? You know, well, maybe they're not more annoying. They're annoying, right? They're more visible. But they're not even close to as bad. Holy fucking dog wiener.
Low hater or anything. Yeah, he gives off pompous vibes, but his longer videos are pretty informative and entertaining. I used
the Shane Dawson one, I guess.
To listen to his videos a couple of years ago while I leveled up my woodcutting on RuneScape. But anyway,
I mean, didn't he take down his Shane Dawson video the second that it came out? That like he made the whole video because James Charles got attacked for having inappropriate conversations with young people, and then once that was true, he's like, "Oop, I'm going to take it down because blah 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 blah." Yeah, you know, not that Shane Dawson is completely innocent, but I'm just saying, it seems interesting.
D'Angelo did post one cringe video, so we must lambast him. Let us proceed.
So Snow White is being played by none other than Rachel Zegler, and so the controversy—
Ew, a brownie. I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking kidding.
If you even want to call it that, is around the fact that Rachel Zegler, according to some people, is not white enough to play Snow White.
Most people don't have that criticism.
People seem very upset that this woman has, I guess, literally any visible melanin whatsoever. And you know,
I wish she had visible melons. You know what I'm saying? Sexism is awesome.
Oh, honestly, I don't think it's just skin deep. Rachel's ancestry is Colombian and Polish. Colombia is in South America, so she has that Latin American heritage. She identifies herself as a white Latina. I've seen her call herself that across multiple interviews, but people seem to really take issue with the Latina part. Have really just turned into this perfect awful storm of nonsense.
Hey, thank you for the 4-month small gut from I'm Not Hill. Brownies are delicious. That's true. I like the ones with nuts in them. I like a good, cute brownie with some beautiful nuts in it, if you know what I'm saying.
Since people hate to see her winning. People just hate to see women win in general, but if she doesn't look exactly the way we want her to, it's just over at that point, I guess.
No, the issue is Snow White should have white pale skin because that's a key character trait that
I just don't care. I mean, like, I understand if your criticism is like, this is a white. I mean, I just don't give a shit about that. Listen, if you're a white person and you're like, hey, listen, I feel like we're phasing white people out a little too much in the name of inclusion, I think that can be fair sometimes. You know what I mean? I also understand why if you're a non-white person, you're like, hey, I wish we were included more, because historically you weren't. Okay? But I love the inclusion of different groups of people, especially when I'm trying to watch my fucking movie in peace. Now, so I can understand the sentiment. Generally speaking, I just personally do not give a fuck. I really just don't necessarily care that much about white representation. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm more worried because she's still fucking white to me. She's still white as fuck. That's how I look at it. But if you have the reasonable, non-racist criticism of that, I think it's okay. It's okay to feel a little upset as a white person sometimes. Like, it's okay, all right? Especially when the humidity is fucking so bad. That's the most reasonable time to feel upset, because it's not the heat that'll get you.
Makes her recognizable. To reference the original fairy tale, the queen names her newborn daughter Snow White because she wishes for a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. And if we take a look at Rachel, she doesn't really come across as someone who looks like Snow White.
To seriously be mad about this is just like, Britney Spears was truly ahead of her time.
It's just
I'm gonna give you the hottest take in my entire fucking life. I think Britney Spears deserved the conservatorship. God bless her, living her truth. Have you checked up on her ever since she's been freed? You haven't. I can tell. It's something else. It's interesting. Certainly interesting.
movie. It's pretend. You're an adult. You should know that.
But let's be real, you're not really upset at her skin tone. You're upset at the fact that she's Colombian.
Well, I'm an adult and I'm
I mean, like, it's funny because Colombians are probably the most conservative fucking... are probably the most conservative fucking Hispanic people in the entire world.
invested in this topic, despite it revolving
Hey, what's up, barbecue?
around a kids movie. So yeah, fuck it. If you want to call me a man-child, so be it. The reason I'm passionate about this subject is because brushing off a film by saying it's just a movie or it's made for kids is just a lazy way of ignoring glaring issues.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, especially considering the reason for inclusion in movies is because that's a big deal in representation wise. So like I said this earlier. It's like, well, it's not a big deal, but if it was the lack of inclusion of like non-white characters, you were like, this is a big deal. It's like, okay, we understand that media can be a somewhat big deal sometimes. We understand that.
I mean, does this movie really impact my life directly? No, but I'm still going to have an opinion about it because I'm genuinely interested in this topic. I think kids deserve better than watered down movies like this.
I think if Disney
Sure, that would be a different criticism, but sure.
was to remake the original Snow White shot for shot, that would be a boring movie. Snow White as a character
just don't
doesn't
remake
really
it.
have that much agency in the original movie. I think one of the most active things Snow White does
Maybe they should have made her Asian then, if she didn't have any agency.
in this film is clean a house.
Smart. It's so interesting because I don't think women are ever going to escape the, dishwasher allegations, I call them. Because quite literally, maybe 2 days ago, my wife, a woman, says to me, baby, I just loaded the dishwasher so well. If there was an award for loading the dishwasher or a competition for loading dishwashers, I would compete and I think I would win. And it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, you're just, what a step forward for women. So, I don't do a bad job doing the dishwasher myself. She just hates the exact way I do it. And it's like, if you're going to be that fucking anal about it, let's get to the bedroom. No, if you're going to be that anal about it, you do that. I'll do other stuff. Like, I usually do the laundry because you can't fuck up the laundry. You just throw the goddamn laundry into the big old, tub. You put it in the dryer, you're pretty much good. Much easier. The organization stuff, though, I let her take care of that. Men are not particularly organized. I don't think so.
So I kind of see how someone could look at this and say,
what's happening?
Maybe there's like more of a story here.
I do agree with that. I even mentioned this in my previous video about the live-action Snow White movie. Jokes aside, I'm not a huge fan of the original Snow White. I respect it as a landmark for animated movies as opposed to the stories.
I haven't watched it in a while, so...
actual writing. There's nothing inherently wrong with the plot and characters, it's just kind of bland, which is sort of a given considering Snow White is the first movie-length animated feature.
It's also an older movie, and, older stuff tends to be less good. you know, less fleshed out.
It was more about displaying the ability to create an animated feature-length
Bro, I've
film.
never had an issue with my white shirt turning out pink, and I mix the colors with the whites, by the way, because I'm fucking progressive as hell. I love mixing the colors with the whites. And I've had no issues. There's been no staining of my clothing, so.
As opposed to displaying one's writing skills. So there is an opportunity to add more depth to the story and characters. This is one of the few old Disney movies I think could really benefit from a remake. However, the issue I have with this remake is the idea that Snow White getting rescued and having a love interest are perceived as outdated themes for female characters, which is fucking stupid. I've had this issue.
Again, it's a good point. Like, there are some women who want to be treated like a princess. In fact, my theory on women, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, is all women want to be a princess. It's just that a lot of men are kind of too shitty to be able to provide that. So they have to pretend that they want to work. Because it's either that or be in potentially abusive relationships without an ability to escape. You know, just the ability to opt out if your partner's treating you poorly can sometimes keep your partner in check. So, I agree. Girls looking for their Prince Charming, but unfortunately, Prince Charming is sometimes an asshole. So, I'm just saying.
With a few modern day writers for a while now, and it's this notion that an empowering female lead has to kick ass and be a leader, which aren't bad traits.
True. Like, those are fine traits, but like if you look at Game of Thrones, the good part of it, name's escaping me. Ned Stark's wife. Okay, Mommy Stark. Very strong female character, but not masculinely strong. Very femininely strong female character. So, like, there's femininity can be powerful too. There's nothing wrong with promoting femininity and making some strong female characters traditionally strong women.
To give to a character, but when you act like getting rescued and finding true love is outdated, and the new Snow White is too good for that, then you're stripping your character away from any sort of
Caitlin Stark, yes.
Nuance.
Or it's really, I think it's Catelyn Stark is how they pronounce it.
Tim Burton also did this twist with the live-action Alice in Wonderland movies, and one of the several reasons why Alice was an incredibly bland character is because she goes throughout the story without any care or doubt. There's no internal struggle. Alice being a fighter alone doesn't automatically make her interesting. The reason why Ripley from the Alien films is loved is because she shows signs of fear, but despite being scared, she commits a selfless act of facing her fears in order to rescue Newt. That's what makes her interesting and likable. To summarize, you can have traits of a...
To summarize, you have to write characters well for people to resonate with them. That's the summary.
Strong female protagonist.
But you should also acknowledge the good that comes with the quote-unquote outdated feminine character traits. People, including myself, had a problem with what Rachel was saying is because, again, she's acting like these character traits of finding true love and being rescued are things that a female character should never go through because they're outdated.
And it's safe to say, if you tell a story that way today, it's not going to go over well. Also,
again, you could still put a woman in a more vulnerable position, but you could modernize that vulnerability. You know what I mean?
Considering a major plot point is when the prince kisses her when she's not conscious.
Yeah, you could just not do that part. You could just not do that part.
I think it's safe to say certain changes were in order.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
If this does not count as weird, I do not know what does.
Yeah, I never got this complaint from people who criticize Snow White for being outdated. The prince gave her a fucking peck on the lips to say goodbye. It's not like he whipped...
Pretty sure that's not what happened. So the criticism is that the prince gave her a kiss on the lips to wake her up without her consent, right? And so the argument, and again, I don't really think it's that big of a fucking deal. It's a goddamn movie. But the argument, which I understand, and there's probably some truth to it, is that it inappropriately demonstrates a consent, right? That's what people are complaining about. And again, there might be some level of truth to it. I don't think it needs to be that deep. It's an old Disney movie. But again, I get it. It's not just like a peck on, it's not saying goodbye. She literally is not consenting to it. And that's their issue with it. So just so you know, so again, but you could just change that part. You could retell it without that part. And it's totally okay. You know what I mean? That's would be modernizing it. There'd be nothing wrong with that.
Whipped it out and doinked her lifeless corpse. Even if you think it's silly or whatever, this is supposed to represent true love breaking the curse the witch put on Snow White. D'Angelo claiming this scene is weird is kind of ironic to me because the only thing weird is trying to add some sexual spin to this scene. I don't know why that's where your mind goes.
And he's apparently accused Disney bosses of insult.
Well, one, that is actually kind of a good point. Sometimes people get like way too riled up about like sexual, shit like that, because it's not sexual. The kiss is really loving. But then, second of all, consent isn't just about sex, right? Consent is about more than it's about, basically consent is like, are you saying it's okay to do this thing? Is it okay if I hug you? Is it okay if I kiss you? Is it okay if I fuck you? Is it okay if, I borrow your PlayStation 2 and never return it? Okay if I shit in your toilet, right? So consent is more than just sex.
The 1937 classic and destroying his father's creation. Also, I'm really glad that he talked about destroying his father's creation because I want to point this out. Anytime this remake thing comes up and people get really, really upset over the fact that it exists, as if it's somehow, I don't know, overwriting the original, y'all do realize that the original still exists.
Yeah, but like, isn't the whole point that when you modernize something to almost to some extent kind of replace it? No?
Right. People genuinely act like if you make a new version of a movie, then the original movie just spontaneously combusts, and anybody who has a copy of that movie dies instantly. Like, what do you mean? The original movie still exists. If you want to watch what is frankly a very beautifully animated film and pretty much a cutting edge for its time, go watch it.
Okay, well, he's not saying it's literally being wiped out of existence. He's saying it's insulting to the original, and I wholeheartedly agree. This movie...
Yeah, sure. I tend to agree. I mean, I guess it is insulting. So yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, I think that they could have modernized it without fundamentally shifting the entire character in a new direction.
It looks like dog shit, and it's an obvious ploy from Disney to say, yeah, we hired a Latina girl to play someone who's supposed to have super pale skin.
That's possible. I mean, we have to see if it's good. If it's not good, then that kind of communicates that to me, that it's more like a kind of a virtue signal to just be like, oh, look, we hired diversity because all the dwarves were like fucking people of color without actually having dwarves, because people don't care about dwarves, the unfortunate reality. Because that is what it is. Like, people do not care about little people. That they do care, like the social conversation doesn't care about little people, so they can be like, oh, we can just replace the dwarves with like people of color because society does care about that right now. That is the topic the virtue signal about. I'm not saying there aren't issues. There are issues of oppression in different communities, but we don't have to. This is their argument. I think we don't have to care about the dwarf ones because nobody really talks about that. Nobody really cares about that. So we can kind of just ignore that one and not really, that's what I think it is. And so. Yeah, if that is the case, then Rachel Zegler being hired as a, Hispanic person, which is still white as fuck, would be a virtue signal, right? And I don't think it's unreasonable to say that because of that.
Got a problem with that, bigot? In other words, this movie isn't trying to be anything good. Even though I said in my last video that I think Snow White and the Huntsman is a very bland, forgettable product, at least they tried to do something new. They told a completely different story. It's not a minor change of Snow White is no longer being rescued, or Snow White doesn't have a true love. You even bring up later on how the film looks terrible and Disney live-action remakes are mediocre.
Guess what? Snow White does look terrible. This movie looks really bad.
Which is another reason why someone would be upset about the animated version's legacy being spat on. Little Mermaid, The Lion King, Mulan.
Yeah, but D'Angelo Wallace could not acknowledge a single, like it could really did the most to just not acknowledge real criticisms.
On Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin were films that were nothing but a waste of my time because they failed to justify why they exist. Aladdin at least had some cool Bollywood dance sequences, so there was some level of creative integrity there. But even so, for a story like Aladdin overall, I'd take animation over live action any day.
That's not all people were mad about. Actually, I have to be honest, this next one's kind of weird. So this set photo leaked and you could see the 7 dwarves, which all seem to be played by people without dwarfism? Almost all of them. I'm not really sure what would motivate them to do this. So I am confused.
I love that that's like the height of the criticism against completely height washing. Let's say it. Instead of whitewashing, height washing the 7 dwarves. I don't know why they do this. That's the extent of his criticism for that. What the fuck?
Confused over.
You know what they say? Silence is violence. Okay.
The actors, because I guess in my mind they don't really fit the parts.
Yeah, and why do you think that is? Is it because, just like Rachel Ziegler, these actors and actresses look nothing like the fucking characters? It's as if
Well, I think it's more because they're dwarfs. She does look somewhat like the characters because she is white as fuck, just to be clear.
a key part of creating an adaptation is ensuring that the product is recognizable.
However, you can probably imagine that the same people who were angry at Snow White for not being white enough, according to them and their definition, were angry about this photo for a different reason. Can you maybe guess in your mind what different reason
Because there's no dwarves.
there is to
And it's forced inclusion, and which is annoying and cringe.
be upset about this? Is anything really jumping out at you?
Personally, I don't care if there are black dwarves or even female dwarves. I mean, this is
Yeah. I mean, you should see more female bearded dwarfs because I believe, like, historically, you know, female dwarves had beards, which PCOS representation, am I right? Yeah, make them fucking disabled, dude. Represent them in that way, but don't make them not dwarves.
isn't like Disney's Peter Pan remake where there are girls in the Lost Boys group, which, by the way, still makes zero goddamn sense and
Who gives a shit?
tarnishes the original source material.
Why does it tarnish the original source material? From what I understand. Like, I understand that they're the Lost Boy. I don't think that one's like a particularly big thing. I'm pretty sure that the source material is that Peter Pan like captures a bunch of kids and keeps them like young forever or something. I don't remember. It's very weird. Peter Pan's like a bad guy in the original. I don't think it's necessarily bad that there are girls in the Lost Boys though, but
Dwarves and other fantasy genres tend to be male-dominated and have beards. The original Snow White pretty much took that caricature and adapted it to a T. My problem is, well, obviously I find this discussion of inclusivity to be hypocritical when people with actual dwarfism didn't get casted for the parts.
Sure.
But it's okay, guys, because Disney snagged a black man and a black woman. And as I stated before, dwarves are known for being short and having long beards. Okay, I see one person who has the dwarfism part down, and I see another individual who may not have the height, but they do have the beard.
well, you can change the beard part. I don't care about that. I do think that they should be played by dwarfs.
Everyone else looks incredibly out of place, though. Perfect casting, guys. Oh wait, Snow White decided to use CGI for dwarves instead of hiring actual actors with dwarfism to play the parts.
And again, they could do that if you want, but I don't think it's unreasonable to be like, hey, I think you should use the voice of dwarves then. Right?
So essentially, Disney
Or Samuel L. Jackson. Also, honorary dwarf, honorary everything.
tried so hard at being progressive that they ended up just being flat out insulting. I mean, this shit is funny, but like, you guys know people with chondroplasia exist, right? They're not mythical fucking creatures that only special effects can replicate.
But you know, instead of listening to all of these people be mad about this for some reason, one bit of criticism, and this is actually a bit older, but it cropped back up recently. The actor Peter Dinklage, who's been in everything from
Peter Dingledorf.
Game of
I just realized I always say Dingledorf and stuff, and like Pinglewhirl. Dinklage Dwarf. That's so funny to me. It's not funny at all to you, but to me it's funny.
to the Hunger Games to, most importantly, Elf. He actually does have dwarfism. And before Disney's weird set photo leaked and we realized that there were 6 people without it playing these characters, he already seemed like he was really just not vibing with this movie at all. In 2022, he said, "Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way and you're still making that backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. What are you doing, man?" But regardless, I just want to point out, I am not here to tell a person who has dwarfism how to feel about this movie, which has influenced probably the majority of people alive right now's perception of dwarfism.
Yeah, no, that's still a stupid take.
Diesel, you're 6'8". You
Oh, it's a lazy take. I think it's annoying and completely goes against the actual education. When you're like, well, a group of people said a thing, so I'm going to believe them on face value. How is that education of that person's struggle to ask no questions and to like actually try to understand? Right? So if a person of color was like, I'm having an issue with this particular thing, I'm like, okay, sure. I've learned nothing. I'm just taking your word for it. I have no true understanding or true empathy for that. If I asked you a question, maybe I'll start to understand. Be like, oh, I kind of get that, because you're usually driven by empathy as people. So it's lazy to just take somebody at face value for a thing. It's good to listen and to like take that struggle seriously. Be like, okay, like I want to believe you. Can you explain to me why? But like, it's a coward's move to just be like, oh well, you know, this guy's short, so you know, I'm just gonna, anything he says goes. Why don't you like push it back? Like, hey, why do you feel that way? What is it specifically about that? It's just a coward representation to not ask like legitimate questions and truly educate yourself on topics, because empathy is not generated through doing that. Laziness is. It's not good to do that.
You can't say his opinion is invalid.
I can if he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You even mentioned this, D'Angelo.
I am a little bit unclear on where he's coming from, because I don't think the 7 dwarves live in a cave. I think the whole point was they lived in the house that Snow White cleaned for them. They might have worked in a cave.
But no, for whatever reason, you backpedal from it. I mean, Dinklage claiming that the dwarves are being portrayed in an offensive and stereotypical way because they live in a cave is just flat out wrong, because they do not in fact live in a cave, they live in a house. Again, your opinion is invalid if you don't have your facts straight.
But the fact that I can't really name any other mainstream Hollywood actors that have dwarfism probably indicates there's a lot of frustration there.
Probably because...
Yeah, but then again, you're not speaking out against, in any meaningful capacity, the removal of 7, or really 6, I guess, but 7 dwarf jobs.
As big Hollywood sharks like Disney are using CGI for roles people with dwarfism could have played.
And actually, this seems like a good time to bring up a beef that I have, like a really specific beef, because so many of these people are on YouTube. I can't even watch Disney related content. Let me know if this...
I can't engage with the counter perspective because I am not mature enough to sift through the sensationalized aspect of arguments. So I just stay away from it.
This is real though. For me,
because all I do is look for things that affirm my belief that everybody is trying to be racist and there are no valid criticisms of anything.
Me personally, I find that if I click into a video that is about Star Wars or Disney or something maybe that's like kids movies, something like that, I almost want to say 9 times out of 10, it's this. It's not somebody who actually cares about the thing they're talking about. It's just somebody who wants to wage war against like all women, people of color, any sort of diversity. Like they labeled it all DEI and they claim everything is woke. And I'm just like, bro, your entire career is just pretending to care about kids media so you can complain about women existing?
Yeah, what an open-minded perspective. When I see opinions like this, all I see is your irrational hatred for black people and women. So basically, my opinion is invalid because I haven't...
The entire reason Snow White cleans for them is to say thank you for letting them stay in their place. That makes sense, but it was probably also dirty because it's a bunch of men, and men don't know how to clean well.
Issue with Disney creating bland, boring products and using these products to appeal to different racial groups. Yeah, nothing insulting about giving the hand-me-downs to anyone who isn't white and straight. Diversity. Are there people online like Synthetic Man who go apeshit when they see the color brown?
True. Synthetic Man is a great representation of a fucking stinky poopy boy.
Yeah. However, critiques on casting revolving around race or gender shouldn't be brushed off as smoke and mirrors for bigotry. Like you automatically assuming that we actually don't care is disingenuous and gets
I guess Diesel Pashes is also a Disney adult.
us nowhere. Fallout has a diverse cast, and you know what? Most people like that show, including me, because it wasn't a show where a diverse cast was an obvious ploy for brownie points. An actual good story with interesting characters was presented to the audience. There's no point in aiming for representation in movies if you know the movie itself sucks. That's not to say that someone could create a bad movie with a diverse cast and that automatically means they were doing it for brownie points. But Disney is well aware these live action remakes are terrible. They're not pop.
I bet Lena Dunham could do it though. She could. Nah, she's a virtuously fuck too. Although I did like the show Girls, but mostly because of Adam Driver, as stated before.
Most people don't like them. Yet it seems to be these movies where diversity is always put at the forefront. But that's about it from D'Angelo. He ends the video saying the movie looks bad, but that's Disney's fault and we shouldn't harass Rachel Ziegler or Peter Dinklage, even though most people are just pointing out their stupid comments about the original Snow White movie. Yeah, they both said stupid shit.
All right. Well, that was the end of that one. I mean, I tend to agree with Diesel Patch. He didn't really might I guess some people might want to argue that there was dog whistling going on there, but I wouldn't. It seemed pretty fun. There's really nothing to criticize there. Pretty, some people would say poggers. Incredible. Some people, not me. I would. Anyway, yeah, that's the end of that. And if you look at the top left, that is a girl with a beard.